Hearst Magazines UK has a number of these events taking place around the country. And it's quite an interesting concept, really, because it's about us being here and learning what our fantastic editors of certain Hearst magazines have to say about what women tell them and what advice you want, whether you're here to ask about careers in the media or whether we're talking about more general issues that your readers and your users online will be talking about, which is about being the person you want to be, making the most of your life, and also, your relationships and children, although I guess quite a few of you here haven't actually got to that stage yet with the children. And the careers and the confidence building and little tips and tricks that perhaps we can pass along to you. So anyway, welcome to Hearst Empowering Wing and welcome to Bristol. So first of all, I want to talk about empowerment, ladies, please. This is Jackie is the editor of Best. What is empowerment to you?
We were talking earlier about our moment when we felt empowered. And actually, mine was when I was 17 years old. I've been disempowered many times since then, I just want to point out. But I was about to decide whether I wanted to go to university or not at school. And it's not a violin sob story, but I was a council house kid and I went to a very good school that I managed to blag my way into. And for some reason, really from the get-go, I wanted to be a journalist. And it's quite daunting, actually. Again, guy in his 50s, degree, Bachelor of the Arts, looking at this 17-year-old going, well, why wouldn't you? You've got to cover your bases. Anyway, after half an hour's grilling, it boiled down to you're probably not going to get a career in the media because it's so oversubscribed, so you really just should give up. And somehow, the little switch flicks, and I just went, well, you really appreciate it, but that's what I'm going for, and I'm going to get it. I scraped through my A-levels like that, but I did get placed on the course. And I always look back now and think how my life would have changed had I not had that moment where I just kind of stood up to authority and said, I'll take my chance. So that was my moment of empowerment.
What about you, personally? What was your moment? Because for every one of us, we've all, well, I tell you, I've had some moments, but there was one for me as well, which was that kind of click, I'm doing this. What was yours, Bernie?
I was getting pushed around, and there was one day when I thought, okay, so maybe everything isn't going to change, maybe everything isn't going to be perfect, and I started shoving people back. And actually, there's something very empowering about if you got pushed on a bus, and then you push them back, but you've got sticks, so actually you're in a lot more empowering position than they are. And it was just that realization that actually, sometimes you can't wait for the everything to be perfect again, everything to be perfect. Sometimes you have to walk on a leg and a half, and you can do it just as well as 2 legs.
My big moment of empowerment was probably, well, it was in February of last year when I'd worked in a job for quite a long time. I was stuck in, has anyone seen The Devil Wears Prada? Okay, that was my life for 6 years. And I really, really, really wanted this job.
Can we ask who you were working for?
No, you can't. Absolutely not. And Google. I really wanted this job, and I prepared, believe me, I really prepared for my interviews, and I had a series of interviews, and I was away on holiday, and I got a text from my now boss saying, can I talk to you at 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow? And I was away with I've got young daughters, 10 and 12, away with my best friends in the world who I went to school with. Can I talk to you in the morning? So I said to my daughters, sorry, we can't go up the mountain to ski with everyone else tomorrow morning. We've got to wait here. And they knew as well I really wanted this job. So I got the call, I got the job offer, and we went up in the cable car, and my daughters ran out in front of me and yelled at my friends, Mummy got the job! And that was probably one of the best days of my life. And on a more local level, I just say I feel empowered just getting through the week every week, to be honest, because I'm juggling my job and my kids and just about holding together my marriage and occasionally seeing my mates. And I think probably like most people here, just getting through the week's a bit of an achievement when you've got lots on your plate, but we're all doing it okay, aren't we? We're all doing just the best we can, so, yeah.
Instead of seeing it as a barrier, I suddenly realized that actually it was a fantastic opportunity for a new challenge and something really exciting. And, when you're in your 50s and you kind of can suddenly feel empowered, That's a pretty good feeling. So that was
Well
mine.
done.
I was very lucky, actually. I grew up with a mom that empowered me a lot. You know, even just whether I was opening a jam jar, she would say, you know, she never took it off me and said, I'll do it. She always showed me how to do it. And I think that's a really big part of who I've ended up growing up to be. The first day of my MBA, they stand there and say, what do you want to do? And I remember I was pouring with sweat as I said it. And I remember standing there shaking. And I stood up and I went, I'm going to, first time I'd said it out loud, I am going to create the first and largest chain of Indian restaurants in the UK. And the guy, little panel of business academics, I'll call them, because I wasn't very impressed at the time, stood there and went, yeah, somebody says that every year. We've never seen anyone do it. And I sat there and thought, and I said in front of 250 people, yeah, but I will. And I sat back down and I thought, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. I've really, really got to do it now. What on earth am I doing? What am I doing? And I just had that complete moment of empowerment to say, I don't care if it's gone wrong. I'm still going to do it. I don't care if I've not got the chain I wanted. I'm still going to do it. I'm not going to take this job. And everybody thought I was bonkers. And I did have the largest chain of Indian restaurants in the UK in the end. So that moment of empowerment was so important. I was faced with a really lovely alternative. I said, no, I'm going to be true to myself. And I did have my 4 kids. So that's where
But it is that feeling that, no, I'm going to do this. And that, you know, I'm looking out now at this beautiful, gorgeous, fabulous audience here of different ages. And it can happen. If it hasn't happened to you, it can happen. That's a secret, really, isn't it? It can happen. And if you persist with it, it can happen. Even if you think, I want it all to happen by the age of 22 or 32, it can happen later in life, I think, particularly nowadays. So that was why I wanted you. And thank you, ladies, for sharing your stories there. Now, what I want to just, before we come to you and your questions about all sorts of different things, because obviously this whole feeling of empowerment is a broad subject for women, I just want to take your advice now, really, because Hearst Magazines talks to 1 in 3 women, adult women in the UK, across all titles and online websites. What do women talk about? What is it that are the issues, the burning issues that they want? I'm not talking about, oh, shall I wear those shoes with this dress? What is it that they want to talk about in terms of empowerment? What do they want? Jackie?
What I've observed actually about the kind of digital age to start with, because we have a website called Best Daily, which we launched last year, is it's given us a real snapshot. As print editors, I always felt I knew what the readers were talking about, and they're very quick to respond on email and to give you feedback. But I think, and Bernie will, I'm sure, talk more about this because she knows far more about it than I do. I think the digital age and forums and feedback have really enabled women to, through the medium of their magazine that creates a community, we've all got a core demographic that wants to come to Best, or to All About You, or to Prima, or to Country Living. But it's like-minded people gathering in a space. And actually what women talk about can range, in absolute honesty, from really trivial stuff to incredibly moving core issues. And I think the most important thing about the opportunities digital gives you is to put those voices together. And yes, we're brands, and yes, we're editors, but we're really just part of that conversation. So I do think women are incredibly, for Best readers, and our core demographic is probably, well, I know what it is, so probably should I absolutely know what our core demographic is. It's 45 to about 60, and online it's 10 years younger than that. They have succeeded in spite of the recession. They're resourceful, they're incredibly savvy. They have influence over their daughters and sons' generations, so the late teens, 20s for a lot of them. They're incredibly concerned about their parents, the care trap, the future for their parents. But the really lovely thing about their empowerment is, as much as we all offer advice and hopefully expertise, I love to see them interacting with each other, because women are incredibly supportive. And I think what digital has enabled us to do is just to talk more powerfully, more instantly with each other. And for us, as editors in print, you can really respond to that.
And do they talk about, when I was growing up, and my mum and her friends, although my mum hated sport, but, a lot of her friends would be having to talk about what the men would talk about, because that's what women did then, or were perceived to have done. Is that what women do now?
I think one of the core themes that might come out of today is that whether it's in research or online, men are pretty much absent from their conversation.
We've just talked very, very generically about empowerment and so on, but I want to, obviously you're here because you want some questions answered, whether it's about careers or challenges or whatever it might be. So it's a bit of a hands-up time. It can be about confidence, it can be about whatever you want, money, business, stress, whatever.
Hello, I'm Megan.
Hello, Megan.
My question was more about, I don't know whether this is a symptom of myself or to generalise women. There's the problem with the pay gap, and obviously, women like yourselves, you're editors, you're at the top. And I suppose my question is kind of, not necessarily tips, but obviously I personally find it very hard to sort of start the conversation of, I think I should be on more money, because I think one of the problems sometimes that women have been not born with, I think we're trained to do it, is be quite self-deprecating and think that, I don't really, if I ask for money, you'll just tell me, oh, well, no, why would I give you more money? And just sort of if you had any strategies going through your careers of being able to say, no, I should be on more, and how you went about actually standing up for yourself and asking for it.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to hand this one to you because it's about money.
Somebody said to me, I asked somebody the same question in my early 20s, and their response to me was, Sarah, you get the life that you feel you deserve. I thought, that's carried me. I've taken that with me for so many years, and actually so many of the decisions I've made have been based on that one piece of advice, which is, if I don't feel I'm worthy, I'm not going to get what I want, actually. And I always think, what's the absolute worst thing that can happen? He or she says no. And guess what? You're in exactly the same place as you were when you didn't ask. So that's really empowered me, feeling that actually I deserve this. I really do deserve it. And therefore it's my right to sit down and have an open conversation with it. It's my right to approach it. So I think firstly, it has to come from you, and if you feel that you warrant that, that's the first step, is to really feel that, and then to sit down with whoever it is that makes that decision. It's extremely important. And I don't think it's ever about anybody else. So it's not necessarily about comparing, it's actually about you and the work that you do and the value that you bring. And I think if you can back that up, having an open discussion in a very non-aggressive way is, and not self-deprecating as well, it's also really important, but just in a very confident, matter-of-fact way, I think will stand you in very good stead for a conversation. I really do.
That lady over there, please.
My name's Ellen Green, and I run a small business in Bristol called Blue Badge Company. I employ a lot of women, myself included. I can see that we're at the age where we're going to start wanting to have children. And my question is about, how do you create an environment where women are encouraged and supported to be able to make those decisions between having children and a career, so they know they've got the support and the job to come back to. I need to set an example for my employees if I make those decisions soon myself.
I employ a lot of mums, actually, and my theory, and I believe it's also fact, certainly in my experience, is that if you allow a mum to be a mum, if that's what they want to be, of course there are mums that actually want to have a career and that's more important to them, but if they really, really want to be a mum, allow them to be mums, first and foremost, and you will get the most amazing employees. You really will. So if you allow them to do the school run, if you allow them, if you can, it depends on the type of business that you have. So I run a website where I employ a lot of mums. So I allow them to come in after the school run. I allow them to do the school run, and I allow them to do a couple of hours of work in the evening if they need to. Mm-hmm. So I've worked it out. Not all of the jobs actually could be filled by a mum that working very flexible hours, but as many as possible. And I tell you, the output in the day from those mums is phenomenal. I mean, it really is. And I think one of the big problems, real intellect loss that we have in the UK is because there aren't enough businesses, people who own the businesses, asking the question that you've just asked, that doesn't empower mums to also work if they want to, and they don't allow it to happen.
I know a lot of the stuff that you've done through Country Living, you've had a lot of women who've set up small businesses, haven't you, over during the recession, actually. And what has their experience been? Because it's not easy creating and running your own business.
And that's obviously the advantage of having your own business, that you can work the hours you want to work. We've got a booklet coming out with our October issue about starting up a business from the kitchen table, and the whole premise of that is don't give up the day job. You can keep the day job on, but you can start experimenting with, turning a hobby into a business if it's cut flowers you're interested in, or some sort of crafting and you want to start selling your own bags or whatever. So, those opportunities are there for women that I think weren't before.
Do you think that there's enough advice around? I don't, personally. I think that there's a lot of huge sort of government advisory websites, and then you troll through. You've actually got to be an accountant and a lawyer to understand what the blooming necklace. I didn't swear then. Did you notice that? That's me being well behaved. What they're saying.
Well, I mean, we work with a couple of organisations. There's an organisation called WIRE, Women in Rural Enterprise, and they're a great networking.
Say the name of that
Women
again?
in Rural Enterprise, so it's WIRE, W-I-R-E. And they are a fantastic networking club, and of course, as we were talking about earlier, that whole thing of community and women getting together to talk about. So when you do that networking thing, you realise that people have got the same issues that you've got. They want the same sort of advice that you've got. There's another organisation called Enterprise Nation, run by somebody called Emma Jones. And, we work with these people. They are all about helping set up small businesses.
Okay, that's good. Thanks, Susie.
Yes. My name is Alexandra Davis, and I'm passionate and involved in local politics. Now, it's very male-dominated, and I can't tell you how many times that I've gone into a meeting and I'm the only woman, and they either think I'm there to make the tea or take the minutes. So I just wondered how you deal with working in a male-dominated environment, if you ever have, and how you get them to take you seriously and as an equal, because that's something I'm finding very difficult, especially being young as well, because they're mostly all over 50.
I think you have to really know your stuff, the best piece of advice I was ever given was my mother, who said, she also gave me a very duff piece of advice, which is not to marry my husband, but we're happily married. But the best piece of advice she gave me was to work very, very hard. And if you work very, very hard, you'll get what you want. And if you're in a male-dominated environment, work harder than the men and know more, and go in and blow everybody away with how much you know.
Play to your strengths. So the strength you have is the perspective and the way that you can speak for a huge demographic that those men don't know anything about. Yeah. So I mean, that's your strength. So don't look at, oh gosh, there's a load of them and only one of me. That's brilliant, because you can bring so much to that they don't have access to.
Start and make a space for yourself, because if you start to play to any kind of sexual stereotype, it's really hard to change that. If you challenge it in a charming, witty, funny way, and you set your stall out on what you're prepared to take and what you're not, that will be your progression. If you take it, you'll get to the point where you can't fight back.
I think it's an enormous advantage. You're a beautiful woman, and I'm sure you're very smart as well. It is an enormous advantage to be the only woman sat in that room, because you are the only one who can really impress. Because if they've misjudged you, more for them, because when you open your mouth and you know what you're doing, when they walk out of that room, you're the one they remember. They don't remember the other grey suit that all looks the same. You're the one that they'll remember, and they'll remember you time and time again. So you're the one, if you're good at what you do, you're the one that will take the step forward, not the boring grey suit, because they all look and seem the same. So you really stand out, so use that to your advantage.
My name's Kim. I wasn't particularly planning on asking this, so it's terrifying. Please be kind. I've had a bit of a moment recently where I've realised that I expend far too much energy seeking the approval of men. Not consciously in a sexual way, but I do it. And I know it's detrimental to the cause of empowering women. And every time I catch myself doing it, I hate myself, and it takes away a bit more of my self-respect and my self-worth. And I want to overcome it. I don't know how.
That's a very brave thing to say.
My heart's pounding.
Okay, what are we going to say to Kim? How's she going to do this?
Well, you've spotted it, haven't you? So many women probably have no idea that that's what's happening to them. You've already identified the problem, so you're already on the path to dealing with that. I can see you getting emotional now. There are points in our lives when we feel vulnerable. You've had a very honest conversation with yourself for a start, so you should be very proud of that. And that is the foundation of building the new attitude that you have to relationships in your life. And it won't come overnight. But with each boyfriend or each relationship, you'll get stronger and you'll come to see your own worth. And we were talking earlier about, do you know what? It's not I don't care what men think about me. I absolutely care about my kids and my husband's impression of me. But I kind of care what the world thinks about me. And you will get to a place where you will be confident in yourself, and that will not be happening to you. I'm sure of it.
Would anybody else like to comment?
All I was going to say was I think so much of it's about friends. You know, we've talked so much today about the support that women give to one another, just as mates. You know, I mean, we're doing it here in a bigger way, but just as good friends. Have you got good friends? Have you got good girlfriends?
More recently, yes.
Good. That's what you need to hang on to, because they're the ones that will tell you you look fantastic when you meet them in the evening for a drink. They're the ones that will be there when you want to cry at 3 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, they're the ones that can kind of go, yeah, I know exactly how you feel. You know, I don't think men do that. I don't think men go, oh, God, yeah, I know exactly what you mean, unless it's about football. But, you know, women do, because they're very, very prepared to admit that we've all been vulnerable at different times. And, you know, it's a roller coaster. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, but there'll always be somebody there to be with you. Those are the relationships that you've got to build.
Yeah.
We've all had those periods in our life where we've really beaten ourselves up. And I really think the first step is to just forget how you're dealing with men.
Yeah.
Is actually, it's all about you. And don't beat yourself up about it. Don't hate yourself for it. It's okay. It's just part of the journey. Continue to go down that journey. And as you go down that journey and realize that every single other person in this room has been there, just as Jackie said,
And you'll be there
gets
again.
better and better and better.
At some point, we'll all be
I was
there
just going
again
to
at
say
some
that,
point.
actually, that you know, nothing ever stays the same. We all know this. Everything changes. So that has its upsides and its downsides, because, you know, when something's good, it's not going to last
But
forever.
make the most of it.
But also, when things are bad, they're not going to last forever. Everything changes. And you're young, you know. Everything will continue to change. And you'll have great times and you'll have awful times.
Yeah.